This is the iPhone 12 Pro, and it was the best iPhone you could get in 2020. However, this was almost 6 years ago. So my question is it worth buying or keeping the iPhone 12 Pro if you already have it? And as always, let's start with the design. On the front, the iPhone 12 Pro has a 6.1-inch XDR OLED screen. And before you say, oh, that's great, no, it's not. This screen is pretty underwhelming compared to newer iPhones. You see, even though this is a Pro iPhone, you only get a 60Hz screen, which also caused some backlash in 2022. And the peak brightness isn't much better either, as it can only go up to 1200 nits. Now this basically means that it will be quite hard to see the screen in outdoor conditions. Other than that, the quality of the screen is amazing. And since it's an XDR OLED screen, it is very color accurate and everything is just crispy, so watching stuff on this screen is amazing. Anyways, this phone has sides that are made of stainless steel, the back is made out of matte glass, there's a 3-camera setup on the back, and it also has the first ever LiDAR sensor on an iPhone, which we will come back to later. So as of the design, it feels super premium, except the screen of course. The flat edges, however, are kinda sticking into my hands. Some might see this as a problem, but for me, this doesn't feel as slippery as curved phones. But now let's turn the phone around and take a look at the triple camera setup on the back. The iPhone 12 Pro comes with 12 megapixel wide, ultra wide, and telephoto camera. And starting with the main lens, it can take some really impressive photos in good lighting. The colors look great, the dynamic range is solid, and the images are nice and sharp. In low light though, things start to show their age. Photos become noticeably noisier and can't hold up to today's standard, but it is still usable and not bad. The ultra-wide camera is also capable of taking some great shots, especially in bright conditions. However, it struggles in low light conditions and tends to lose a lot of detail when the lighting isn't ideal. And then there's the telephoto lens, which offers a whopping 2 times optical zoom, which might not seem like a lot, which is correct, but it is still surprisingly useful when you want to get a little closer to your subject. Now, you do also have the 10 times digital zoom, but as with digital zoom generally, the image quality drops off pretty quickly, making the footage almost unusable. And finally, this thing right here is the LiDAR sensor. It helps the iPhone measure depth, improving things like autofocus in low light. But of course, you can use it for more silly stuff like scanning objects and turning them into 3D models. Now, Apple's video processing was already strong when this phone was released, so it hasn't aged too much. This phone can record up to 4K at 60 FPS, and it has OIS and EIS. This basically means that the footage will look extremely good and smooth. But even though the cameras on this phone are extremely good, the same can't be said about the hardware. The 12 Pro has an A14 chip, 6GB of RAM, and a 2815 mAh battery, which is kinda tiny for today's standards and for a Pro iPhone in general. However, all this hardware does actually make this phone perform quite alright even in 2026. It's amazing for daily driving and especially doom scrolling. The animations are smooth and there's almost no lag. Gaming on this phone works to a degree, but over time it gets hot and starts to lag, and you can't play with max graphics. It does also get the newest iOS 27 and it is super smooth even on the developer beta. But this might be its last major update, since all the new things you get with this new update is just better performance and optimization. Now over to probably the worst part about this phone, the battery. As I said earlier, this phone has a 2815 mAh battery, which in 2026 is underwhelming. And this shows in daily usage, as the battery drops super fast and the phone doesn't even last a day. However, this of course depends a lot on the battery health of the phone, and mine specifically is just at 77%, meaning it's time for a battery change. So all in all, should you buy this phone in 2026? Well, even though it is an interesting phone, I don't think it's necessarily worth buying, especially when technically this is a Pro iPhone with basically no Pro features. and if you already have it, I think you should keep it until next year, as this is a great phone and performs quite well. Anyways, that's it for this video. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.